which Amazon eliminates through a back door. We know about this back door through observation. In 2009, Amazon remotely erased thousands of copies of a particular book, an Orwellian act. And what was the book? It was 1984 by George Orwell. The book that gave us the slogan, "Big Amazon is watching you." There was a lot of criticism, and Amazon promised it would never do this again unless ordered to by the state. Well, if you've read 1984, that's not a very comforting promise. 1984 describes a totalitarian state whose crimes begin with destroying the books it doesn't like, burning them, and that is what Orwell thought of in those pre-computer days. And the state of Oceania would have to physically find and get the books in order to burn them. It couldn't just send a command which would make them magically disappear. Somebody came to one of my talks and said he was reading the book and it disappeared on him. People's notes that they had made about the book disappeared at the same time. By the way, Amazon's snooping is more than I said. Whatever notes people write, Amazon can read them. And Amazon knows which page of which book is being read at any time. And that kind of spying is not unique to Amazon. The Electronic Frontier Foundation did a study of various commercial e-readers. Some were a little bit worse and some were a little bit less bad, but they were all utterly lousy in terms of respect for privacy. And that study was only privacy. Anyway, Amazon's promise is not very comforting, but it doesn't matter because Amazon didn't keep the promise anyway. The official name of this product is the Kindle. Kindle means to start a fire. Perhaps it's meant to suggest that the real purpose of this product is virtually burning people's books at a distance. So you should never use anything like that. The software in the swindle, and after all, these features are implemented in the software. The software of the Amazon swindle is malware. Then there's the example of nearly all portable phones. Even if it's not a smartphone, it's still a computer running software that can be changed by somebody. Not by the user, but by the phone company. And this software, which is proprietary in almost all cases, has a surveillance functionality. It will send the GPS location on remote command and the user can't stop it. And it has a universal backdoor that allows remote imposition of software changes. And this has been used to remotely convert them into listening devices that listen 24/7 and transmit everything they hear. They're listening all the time, and you don't have to speak into the microphone. It can listen to you from the other side of the room. And if you think that you can get some privacy by switching it off, guess what? It pretends to switch off, but really it keeps running and listening and transmitting. The only way you can really get privacy is to take out all the batteries. Not just one battery, but all the batteries. And sometimes there's a big visible battery you can remove and another battery that's hidden that you can't remove. Some phones don't allow removing any of the batteries. I wonder why. So, the software, portable phones seem very convenient, but they are Stalin's dream. And that's why I don't have one. It's every citizen's duty to stick a finger in Big Brother's eye. safe. But we have to ask, what's going to keep us safe from a state that knows everything about everybody? That's very dangerous. Big Brother is watching you, and more than Orwell could imagine. So, I've now finished my list. Just a few examples, but almost everyone that uses proprietary software is using at least one of these examples. So most users of proprietary software are the victims of known proprietary malware. But what about all the other programs that don't give Freedom 1? Thousands of them. We don't know in most cases whether they are malware. Maybe yes, maybe no. We can't check. Of course, if you could only look at the source code and you can't compile it and run it, maybe the executable is mistreating you and you couldn't possibly do anything about it. So you really need all of Freedom 1 to protect yourself from malware. So I'm sure there are some of these programs which do not have malicious functionalities and some which do. The problem is we can't tell which is which. We can't identify any program without Freedom 1 that we are confident does not have malicious functionalities, because the developers, by denying us Freedom 1, prevent us from making sure of this. They make us vulnerable. Every proprietary program demands blind faith from its users. The only way to trust it is that every proprietary program without Freedom 1 demands blind faith. That's the only basis for trusting it. You can't have a solid, rational basis for trusting it. So they're saying, we're a corporation. Of course you know no corporation would ever mistreat people. Or else you're living in cloud cuckoo land. But what can we can't identify any proprietary programs without Freedom 1 that are not malware, but I'm sure some exist. What can we say about them? Well, they don't have malicious functionalities, but they do have bugs, because every non-trivial program has bugs. And the user of a program without Freedom 1 is just as helpless facing an accidental error as facing an intentional malicious functionality. If you use a program without Freedom 1, you're a prisoner of the code. We, free software developers, rarely put in malicious functionalities. And that's because we don't face the same temptation. The developer of a proprietary program has power over the users and knows it. And nowadays they calculate this power very finely, thinking, what can we get away with doing to the users? Now that we've got them under our power, how exactly can we exploit them and mistreat them? Of course, they do this for profit, not out of mere malice. That doesn't help users, of course. But they think carefully about what malware to put in. Because they have power, and this power has corrupted them not just individually, but as a social group. The ethical standards for software development have gone down, especially in the past 10 or 15 years, to the point where they all admit that they're going to do these nasty things, and they treat it as okay. Whereas we, free software developers, we don't face temptation, because we know we don't have the power. If you contribute to a free program, you know that the users will be able to study it, and if they don't like what you did, they'll change it. And if you don't have power, it's not going to corrupt you. So it's very rare to find malicious functionality in free software. because the community has a defense. We can undo anything bad that the developers did. But we still make mistakes. Our free programs have bugs because every non-trivial program has bugs. But if you find a bug in our free code or anything you don't like, you're free to change it because we did not make you a prisoner. We can't be perfect. We can respect your freedom. So freedom 1 is essential. But it's not enough. Because that's the freedom to study and change the source code individually or within one organization. Now this is not sufficient because most users are not programmers. Most users don't know how to exercise freedom 1. So if you had to do it by yourself and you're not a programmer, it wouldn't help you. But even if you are a programmer, you probably use thousands of programs, and no one person is capable of studying thousands of programs and mastering them, and then personally making all the changes that she might want. That's more work than one human being can do. So in order to fully have control of our computing, to have control of the program we're using, we need to do it together, cooperate. That requires freedom 3, the freedom to make and distribute copies of your modified versions when you wish. That way, the users of a program, or some of them, can cooperate to make the program work the way they want. And when it's done, they can offer, or whenever they want to, they can offer copies to the public also. And that way, the